The morning sun peeked through the clouds as Alex pulled up to his new home in Oak Ridge Estates. After years of apartment living, he was finally able to afford a small house in what the real estate agent had called a peaceful community with strong values. Alex smiled at the thought. Peace was exactly what he needed after 3 tours overseas. "We made it, Bella," he said, glancing at the German shepherd in the passenger seat. Bella's ears perked up at the sound of her name. She wasn't just a pet. She was Alex's certified service dog, trained to help manage his PTSD symptoms and alert him before panic attacks. Alex stepped out of the truck and took a deep breath. The neighborhood looked perfect: neat lawns, colorful flower beds, and houses that seemed to smile back at him. For the first time in years, he felt hopeful about the future. The moving truck arrived 20 minutes later. As Alex directed the movers where to place his furniture, he noticed a woman in a crisp pantsuit marching across the street toward his driveway. Her heels clicked against the pavement with purpose, and her face wore an expression that reminded Alex of his old drill sergeant. "Excuse me," she called out, waving a folder. "You must be the new owner." "I'm Patricia Wilkins, president of the Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association." Alex wiped his brow and extended his hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Alex Rivera." Patricia ignored his outstretched hand, her eyes fixed on Bella, who sat obediently by the front door. "I see you have a dog." "Yes, this is Bella. She's my service." "We have a strict no-pets policy in Oak Ridge Estates," Patricia cut in, opening her folder and pulling out a laminated page. "Section 8, Paragraph 3 of our community bylaws clearly states that no animals are permitted on the premises." Alex felt a familiar tightness in his chest. He'd dealt with this before. "Ma'am, Bella isn't a pet. She's a certified service animal. Under federal law." Patricia's laughter cut through his explanation. "Oh, everyone says that nowadays, don't they? It's a service animal. It's an emotional support animal. Next thing you know, people will be claiming their goldfish helps with anxiety." One of the movers accidentally bumped into a lamp, causing a loud crash. Alex flinched at the sudden noise, and Bella immediately pressed against his leg, a trained response to ground him before anxiety could take hold. "Look," Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I have all the proper documentation. The Fair Housing Act protects service animals regardless of community policies." Patricia's smile tightened. "Well, we'll just see about that. This isn't some apartment complex where you can hide behind government rules. We're a family community with standards." An older man from the house next door walked over, curiosity written on his face. "Everything okay over here, Pat?" "Just explaining our rules to the new resident, Tony," Patricia replied sweetly before turning back to Alex. "I'll be sending you official notice about this violation. I suggest you make other arrangements for the animal quickly." As she walked away, Tony shook his head. "Don't mind her too much. I'm Tony, by the way. Been living here 15 years. "Is she always like that?" Alex asked, scratching Bella behind the ears to calm himself down. Tony sighed. "Let's just say Patricia takes her HOA duties very seriously. Too seriously, if you ask most of us. But fair warning, she doesn't back down easily." Alex watched as Patricia marched back to her house, already typing something on her phone. He had chosen this place because it promised peace and stability, exactly what his therapist said would help. Now, on his very first day, he was already facing a battle. "It's okay, girl," he whispered to Bella, who looked up at him with trusting eyes. "We're not going anywhere. We've faced worse than neighborhood committees, haven't we?" Little did Alex know, this was just the beginning of what would become the strangest and most intense neighborhood dispute of his life. 3 days after moving in, Alex found the first notice taped to his front door. The paper was bright orange with bold black letters, "Violation. Unauthorized pet on premises." At the bottom, in smaller print, $150 fine, payable to Oak Ridge Estates HOA within 7 days. Alex crumpled the paper in his fist. He'd dealt with enough bureaucracy during his time in the military to know how to handle this. That afternoon, he printed out Bella's service animal certification, the relevant sections of the Fair Housing Act, and a doctor's letter explaining her necessity for his condition. He placed everything in a folder and walked 3 blocks to Patricia's house. Her garden was immaculate, not a weed in sight. Wind chimes tinkled softly from the porch as Alex rang the doorbell. Patricia opened the door, her eyes narrowing when she recognized him. "I've brought documentation about Bella," Alex said, holding up the folder. "By law, service animals aren't considered pets, and—" "I'm on a conference call," Patricia interrupted. She snatched the folder from his hands. "I'll look at this when I have time." The door closed in his face before he could say another word. A week passed without any response. Alex began to hope the matter was settled until he found a second notice, this time with a $300 fine for continued violation despite warning. "This is getting ridiculous," he muttered to Bella, who tilted her head as if she understood perfectly. The next day, Alex was watering his new lawn when a woman pushing a stroller stopped by his fence. "You must be the new guy with the service dog," she said. "I'm Liz from 2 streets over." Alex nodded cautiously. "That's me." "How did you know?" Liz rolled her eyes. "Patricia's been talking about you at every opportunity. Called an emergency HOA meeting last night specifically about pet policy enforcement. My husband's on the board. He said it was just an hour of her ranting about you." "Great," Alex sighed. "So the whole neighborhood knows about me now." "Don't worry," Liz said. "Not everyone's like Patricia. Some of us actually read the law before trying to enforce it." She smiled. "My brother's a vet too. Has a service dog for his PTSD. Bernese mountain dog named Chuck." For the first time since moving in, Alex felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "Thanks. That means a lot." Later that week, Alex returned from grocery shopping to find a group of people standing in his driveway. Patricia stood front and center, flanked by 2 stern-looking men in polo shirts with the HOA logo. "Mr. Rivera," Patricia announced like she was addressing a courtroom, "the board has reviewed your so-called documentation and found it insufficient. This is your final warning to remove the animal from the property." Alex set down his groceries. What exactly was insufficient about it? One of the men cleared his throat. "We have concerns about the legitimacy of online service animal registrations." "My registration isn't online," Alex replied. "Bella was trained through the Veterans Service Dog Program. It's a federal program. And my doctor's letter." "Anyone can get a doctor to write a letter these days," Patricia cut in. "We've had residents try this before. If we make an exception for you, soon everyone will claim their pets are service animals." A small crowd of neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk, watching the confrontation unfold. Alex noticed Tony among them, shaking his head in disapproval. "This is harassment," Alex said quietly. "I've provided all the required documentation. If you continue, I'll have to file a complaint with the Department of Housing." Patricia's face flushed red. "Are you threatening me?" "No, ma'am. Just stating facts." "Well, here's a fact for you," Patricia snapped. "While you're filing complaints, we'll be filing liens. The fines are now up to $750, with an additional $100 added daily until the animal is removed." As she stormed off with her entourage, Alex felt his hands trembling slightly. Bella pressed against his leg, sensing his distress. Tony approached as the crowd dispersed. "That woman's on a power trip. Has been ever since her husband left her for their travel agent." He handed Alex a business card. "My daughter's a lawyer, specializes in housing discrimination. Give her a call." Alex looked down at the card, then at Bella. This wasn't just about a dog anymore. It was about standing his ground when others tried to push him around, something he promised himself he'd never let happen again after coming home. 2 weeks into the dispute, Alex decided to follow his usual morning routine despite the tension. The community park was just a 5-minute walk from his house, a peaceful spot with winding paths and wooden benches. He figured an early walk with Bella might help clear his head before his phone appointment with Tony's lawyer daughter. The morning air was crisp, dew still clinging to the grass as they entered the park. Bella trotted beside him, her service vest clearly visible against her dark fur. They had the place to themselves, or so Alex thought. "This is private property," the shrill voice shattered the morning calm. Alex turned to see Patricia marching toward him, clipboard in hand. Behind her walked 3 people he recognized from the HOA board meeting. "The park is for residents," Alex replied calmly. "Last I checked, I am a resident." Patricia's eyes narrowed. Residents who follow the rules. You've accumulated over $1,500 in fines already. The board has decided to restrict your access to community amenities until your violations are resolved. One of the men behind her, a balding guy with thick glasses, shifted uncomfortably. Patricia, we didn't actually vote on that yet. She shot him a glare that could have wilted flowers. We discussed it, Greg. The vote is just a formality. Alex felt a familiar tightness in his chest, the beginning of anxiety that Bella was trained to detect. Right on cue, she pressed her body against his leg, providing the pressure therapy that helped ground him. Look, Alex said, taking a deep breath, I'm not looking for trouble. I'm just trying to live my life. Bella is protected under federal law, and these fines are illegal. Patricia stepped closer, pointing her finger. Don't you dare lecture me about laws. I've been running this HOA for 12 years. People like you come in thinking they're special, thinking rules don't apply to them. It's not about being special, Alex insisted. It's about legal protection for service animals. You can't. I can't what? Patricia interrupted, her voice rising. Can't protect our community values? Can't enforce our bylaws? Or maybe you think I can't see through this service dog scam. Several early morning joggers had stopped to watch the confrontation. Alex noticed phones being pulled out, but he was too focused on keeping his breathing steady to care. This isn't productive, he said, turning to leave. Come on, Bella. As he turned, Patricia stepped in front of him, blocking his path. Don't you walk away when I'm talking to you. Ma'am, please step aside. Alex tried to keep his voice even. Or what? She challenged. You'll sick your dog on me. Is that why you really have it? To intimidate people? Bella remained perfectly calm beside Alex, completely contradicting Patricia's wild accusation. I'm going home now, Alex stated firmly, sidestepping around her. What happened next occurred so quickly that later, witness accounts would vary. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out something black and rectangular. I don't feel safe, she announced loudly, as if performing for an audience. Before anyone could react, a crackling sound filled the air, followed by Bella's yelp of pain. The service dog collapsed, her body convulsing. What the hell? Alex dropped to his knees beside Bella, who was whimpering in pain. Looking up, he saw the taser in Patricia's hand. You tased my dog? Are you insane? Patricia stepped back, her face a mask of righteous indignation. It attacked me. Everyone saw it. That's a lie, shouted one of the joggers who had stopped to watch. The dog never moved toward you. Another resident was already on her phone. I'm calling 911. I got the whole thing on video. Alex barely heard them. The sight of Bella in pain had triggered a full-blown panic attack. His vision tunneled, his breathing became shallow, and the sounds around him warped. Without Bella's trained assistance, he felt himself spiraling. Through the haze, he was dimly aware of Greg, the board member, kneeling beside him, saying something about an emergency vet clinic nearby. The last thing Alex saw before the world went grey around the edges was Patricia backing away, still clutching the taser, her face finally showing the first flicker of fear. The veterinary clinic waiting room spun around Alex as he struggled to fill out paperwork with shaking hands. His panic attack had subsided enough for him to drive Bella here, but his mind kept replaying her yelp of pain, her body convulsing on the grass. Mr. Rivera, a vet tech in blue scrubs appeared at the door. We've examined Bella. Dr. Chen would like to speak with you. Alex followed her to a small exam room where Bella lay on a padded table. The German shepherd's tail thumped weakly against the surface when she saw him. Dr. Chen, a woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair, looked up from her clipboard. The good news is that Bella will be okay. The taser wasn't on a high setting, thankfully. She's experiencing muscle soreness and some minor burns at the contact points, but there's no permanent damage. Alex stroked Bella's head gently. Thank God. However, Dr. Chen continued, I'm required by law to report this incident. Intentionally harming a service animal is a serious offense. I know, Alex said. The police are already involved. People at the park recorded everything. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Tony. Video of Patricia tasing your dog has gone viral. Local news asking for interviews. Call me. Alex stared at the screen in disbelief. While he'd been focused on getting Bella help, the outside world had been spreading the story. By the time he paid the vet bill and got Bella settled in his car, 3 more messages had come in from neighbors he barely knew, all expressing outrage and offering support. One included a link to a news website where the video had already received thousands of views. The drive home felt surreal. As he turned onto his street, Alex was met with an unexpected sight. At least a dozen people standing in his front yard, holding handmade signs, "Justice for Bella," "Service dogs save lives," "HOA gone too far." Liz spotted his car first and hurried over as he parked. "We wanted to show support. Hope that's okay." I don't know what to say," Alex stammered, overwhelmed by the gesture. "You don't need to say anything," she replied. "How's Bella doing?" As if in answer, Bella raised her head from the back seat, looking tired but alert. A news van pulled up across the street. Before Alex could react, his phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello. Mr. Rivera. This is Diane Walsh from Disability Rights Action. We've seen the video of what happened to your service animal. We'd like to offer our legal support." Alex felt a lump in his throat. "I appreciate that. I really do." After hanging up, he noticed police cars parked in front of Patricia's house. 2 officers stood on her porch while she gesticulated wildly, her face red with anger even from this distance. Tony appeared at Alex's side. "How are you holding up?" "Still processing," Alex admitted. "Everything's happening so fast." "That's how these things go nowadays," Tony said. "My daughter's been getting calls about your case all morning. She says Patricia could face serious charges. Assault on a service animal is a federal offense." A young woman approached them hesitantly. "Excuse me, are you Alex?" "The guy whose dog was tased." Alex nodded cautiously. "I live in the building where Patricia works. She's a property manager there too. She's been pulling the same power trips at our apartment complex for years. When I saw the video," she handed him a business card. "My uncle's a reporter. He's been looking into complaints against her for months. This might be what finally makes people listen." As the crowd continued to grow, Alex felt something unexpected. A sense of community stronger than anything he'd experienced since leaving the military. These people, mostly strangers until today, had rallied around him and Bella. From across the street, he could hear Patricia's voice rising hysterically. It was self-defense. That dog was aggressive. No one was listening to her. The police officers looked skeptical, one of them taking notes while the other spoke into his radio. For the first time since moving to Oak Ridge Estates, Alex felt like he might actually belong here. The thought brought tears to his eyes as he gently lifted Bella from the car. The service dog who had supported him through countless dark moments was now at the center of a storm that might finally bring some light. The following week passed in a blur for Alex. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from news outlets, disability advocacy groups, and even a famous pet food company wanting to sponsor Bella's recovery. He turned down most interviews, except for a short segment with a local reporter who promised to focus on service animal rights rather than neighborhood drama. Bella was healing well, though she still flinched at sudden movements. The vet had prescribed anti-anxiety medication, which felt strangely ironic to Alex. Now both of them needed help staying calm. On Wednesday morning, Alex received an unexpected visitor. A woman in a sharp suit knocked on his door, flashing a badge. "Mr. Rivera, I'm Agent Lynn Cooper with the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. May I come in?" Alex blinked in surprise. "Department of Justice? I didn't realize this would go federal so quickly." Agent Cooper gave a thin smile as she stepped inside. "The attack on your service animal automatically qualified as a federal offense, but that's actually not why I'm here today." She settled on his couch, nodding politely at Bella, who watched her cautiously from her bed in the corner. "Following the incident, we received several complaints about your HOA. Once we started looking into Ms. Wilkins' history, some irregularities appeared. Financial irregularities." Alex frowned. "You mean she's been stealing money?" "I can't share specifics of an ongoing investigation," Agent Cooper replied, "but I can tell you that embezzlement from HOA funds is unfortunately common. Board members have access to thousands of dollars in maintenance fees with often minimal oversight." She pulled out a tablet, showing Alex a document. This is a formal request for any HOA-related communications you've received, notices, fines, emails. They may contain evidence relevant to our investigation. As Alex gathered the folder of HOA notices, his neighbor Tony appeared at the door, which was still partly open. "Sorry to interrupt," Tony said, looking curiously at Agent Cooper. "Just wanted to let you know Patricia called an emergency HOA meeting for tonight. Everyone's talking about it." Agent Cooper's eyebrows raised slightly. "Is that so? Mr. Rivera, would you mind if I attended this meeting with you?" The community center was packed that evening, every chair filled, with people standing along the walls. The usual crowd of retirees and middle-aged homeowners was joined by younger residents who'd never shown interest in HOA matters before. Alex spotted at least 3 people discreetly recording on their phones. Patricia sat at the front table, her usual board members notably absent except for Greg, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Her normally perfect hair seemed hastily styled, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. "I've called this meeting," Patricia began, her voice lacking its usual authority, "to address the unfortunate incident in the park and the resulting misunderstandings." A man in the back shouted, "You mean when you taste a service dog? That kind of misunderstanding?" Patricia's face tightened. "As I was saying, there have been misrepresentations of what occurred. I felt threatened and—" "We all saw the video," someone else interrupted. "The dog was just standing there." The room erupted in angry murmurs. Patricia banged her gavel repeatedly. "Order. I will have order." Her voice cracked. "This meeting will follow proper procedures or it will be adjourned." Agent Cooper, who had been silently observing from beside Alex, stood up. "Perhaps, Ms. Wilkins, you should explain the proper procedures for maintaining HOA financial records. I'd be particularly interested in hearing about the transfers to your personal account over the past 3 years." The room went silent. Patricia's face drained of color as Agent Cooper approached the front, showing her badge to the stunned audience. "Patricia Wilkins, I'm placing you under investigation for embezzlement of HOA funds, discrimination under the Fair Housing Act, and assault on a service animal protected under federal law." Greg jumped up from his seat, putting distance between himself and Patricia. "I knew nothing about any financial irregularities," he blurted out. "I've been asking to see the books for months." As Patricia opened her mouth to protest, the doors at the back of the room swung open. 2 more agents in dark suits entered, walking purposefully toward the front. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the woman who had terrorized their neighborhood for years suddenly looked very small indeed. The community center buzzed with whispers as Agent Cooper stood face to face with Patricia. Everyone seemed afraid to move, as if the slightest sound might break the tension hanging in the air. "This is ridiculous," Patricia finally sputtered, her voice higher than usual. "You can't just barge in here and make accusations. I've done nothing wrong." Agent Cooper remained calm. "We have bank records, Ms. Wilkins, 3 years of suspicious transfers, not to mention witness statements about your discriminatory enforcement of HOA rules." Patricia's eyes darted around the room, searching for allies. Finding none, she grabbed her designer purse and stood up. "I don't have to listen to this. This meeting is adjourned." "Actually," said Greg, finding his courage, as vice president of the board, "I move that we continue this meeting without Ms. Wilkins." He looked around nervously. "Do I have a second?" "Seconded," came a chorus of voices. Patricia's face twisted with rage. "After everything I've done for this community, 12 years I've kept property values up. 12 years I've made sure this neighborhood stayed respectable." One of the agents who had entered touched Patricia's elbow. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us to answer some questions." She yanked her arm away. "Don't touch me. I know my rights." The room watched in collective shock as Patricia's carefully constructed facade crumbled. Her voice rose to a shriek. "This is all because of him," she jabbed a finger toward Alex. "He moved in with that animal and started causing trouble from day one." Alex felt Bella press against his leg, sensing his discomfort at being the center of attention. Tony stood up. "Patricia, the dog isn't the problem. You are. You've been bullying people in this neighborhood for years, and we've all been too afraid to stand up to you." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. An elderly woman Alex had never met before raised her hand. 2 years ago, she fined me for planting unauthorized flowers in my own backyard. Said they weren't on the approved plant list. A young couple near the back spoke up next. She denied our request to install a wheelchair ramp for my mother when she came to live with us. Said it would affect the aesthetic of the street. More stories poured out, years of petty tyranny and selective rule enforcement suddenly finding voice. Each new tale seemed to physically diminish Patricia, who had once loomed so large in the community. Enough. Patricia slammed her gavel down one last time. You're all ungrateful. I've protected this neighborhood from becoming like those rundown communities across town. Agent Cooper checked her watch. Ms. Wilkins, we have a warrant to search your home and office. You can either cooperate now, or we can add obstruction charges. Patricia looked around wildly, as if expecting someone, anyone, to come to her defense. In that moment, she seemed to realize how truly alone she was. This is all a mistake, she said, her voice suddenly small. The transfers were approved. I have documentation. We'll discuss that at the federal building, said Agent Cooper firmly. What happened next would be talked about in Oak Ridge Estates for years to come. As the agents escorted Patricia toward the exit, she suddenly broke free and made a dash for a side door. She might have made it too, if not for a black and tan blur that moved into her path. Bella hadn't chased her. She had simply positioned herself, standing calmly but firmly in Patricia's way. It was what she was trained to do for Alex during his panic attacks: create a barrier, provide an obstacle to redirect movement. Patricia tried to dodge around the service dog, but tripped over her own expensive heels. She sprawled forward, landing unceremoniously in front of everyone. The room gasped collectively. As the agents helped her to her feet, Patricia's face was scarlet with humiliation. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists, not because she was violent, Agent Cooper would later explain, but because she had demonstrated she might flee. Patricia Wilkins, you're under arrest for embezzlement of HOA funds, Agent Cooper recited, her voice carrying through the now silent room. You have the right to remain silent. Alex knelt beside Bella, stroking her head gently. Good girl, he whispered. You didn't even have to do anything. She took herself down. 3 months after Patricia's arrest, Oak Ridge Estates felt like a completely different neighborhood. The community center, once the site of tense HOA meetings, was now hosting a summer barbecue. Children ran across the lawn while adults chatted in groups, the atmosphere relaxed and friendly. Alex stood by the grill, flipping burgers alongside Tony. Bella lay nearby in the shade, a red bandana around her neck, occasionally accepting gentle pets from kids whose parents had taught them how to properly approach a service dog. Hard to believe how much has changed, Tony remarked, handing Alex another plate of raw patties. Remember when people used to dread getting mail because it might be an HOA violation notice? Alex nodded. The forensic accountants found over $200,000 missing from the HOA accounts. No wonder our dues were so high. The investigation into Patricia's finances had revealed years of systematic theft. She had been skimming from maintenance funds, creating fake vendor invoices, and even charging the HOA for personal expenses like her luxury car payments. The case had made national news, with financial experts using it as a cautionary tale about the importance of HOA oversight. Liz approached with a pitcher of lemonade. Thought you guys might be thirsty. Big turnout today. People actually want to be neighbors now, Tony said, accepting a cup gratefully. Not just people who happen to live near each other. The former Vice President Greg had stepped up as interim HOA president, working with a committee to completely revise the community bylaws. The old rulebook, Patricia's Bible of Restrictions, had been scrapped entirely. Alex spotted a familiar face making her way through the crowd. Agent Cooper looked different in casual clothes, her badge and formal demeanor replaced by jeans and a friendly smile. I hope I'm not crashing the party, she said, offering a plate of cookies. Store-bought, I'm afraid. I'm a terrible baker. You're always welcome here, Alex assured her. Any updates on the case? Agent Cooper nodded. Patricia took a plea deal this morning. 5 years with possibility of parole after 3, plus full restitution to the HOA. Her lawyer pushed hard for probation, but the judge wasn't having it, especially after hearing testimony about the service dog incident. Several other neighbors had drifted over, listening intently. "What about the apartment complex where she worked?" asked a woman Alex recognized as the one who had first approached him about Patricia's behavior at her building. "Same pattern there," Agent Cooper confirmed. "The property management company is facing a class action lawsuit from the residents. Turns out she was running the same scheme in both places." As the conversation continued, Alex felt a tug on his sleeve. A little boy about 7 years old stood there, looking nervous. "Mr. Alex, can I ask you something about Bella?" Alex knelt down to the child's level. "Sure, what would you like to know?" "My cousin has a service dog too for her seizures, but sometimes people are mean about it at stores. Did you know that's against the law?" Alex smiled, surprised by the question. "Yes, it is. Service dogs are allowed to go almost everywhere with the people they help." The boy nodded seriously. "That's what I told my mom. We're making posters for my school project about service dogs and the laws that protect them." Something warm spread through Alex's chest, the realization that his and Bella's difficult experience had created ripples of change beyond just their neighborhood. As the afternoon wore on, neighbors who had previously only exchanged tense nods were now sharing food, stories, and laughter. The new HOA board unveiled plans for a community garden in what had once been Patricia's perfectly manicured but off-limits demonstration lawn. When twilight finally fell, Alex and Bella walked home slowly, the sounds of the continuing party fading behind them. Their little house, once the target of Patricia's harassment, now felt truly like home. On the front porch, Alex sat on the steps while Bella settled beside him. He scratched behind her ears thoughtfully. "You know, girl, when we moved here, I thought we'd finally found some peace and quiet." He chuckled softly. "Instead, we started a revolution." Bella looked up at him with those understanding eyes that had helped him through so much, and in the gentle quiet of the evening, Alex felt something he hadn't experienced in a very long time. The sense that he was exactly where he was supposed to be.